So I've been using my Legion Go for the past few months and I've absolutely loved my time with it. It's powerful for a mobile chipset, has a large 8.8-inch display, and it's very versatile. I can prop it up with a kickstand, detach the controllers, and just use it as a tablet. Now, the Ally and the Steam Deck are fantastic gaming handhelds as well, but I don't really view them the same as the Legion Go because I don't really use the detachable controllers much. And I just like to use it propped up with a controller to play a game or, as a tablet to browse the internet or whatever. And as I was using it at home one day, I had this idea. You see, even though the Legion Go is great for traveling, when I'm at home, I want access to the full performance of a desktop PC. And occasionally, I want to use that PC in another room or take it to a friend's house like I do the Legion Go. Now, not as an everyday carry like the Legion Go, but just every once in a while. Now before, if I wanted to do that, I'd hook up a PC to a portable gaming monitor, but that was always really annoying to set up, and I eventually stopped bothering with it altogether. But what if I had a tiny PC that had a monitor built right into the case? Oh yeah, that's called a laptop. But here's the thing, laptops can be very expensive, and you're locked into the configuration that you buy. Now that's the same as the Legion Go, but still, there's no room for upgradability, and even though they have become so much better over time, they can still run hot and loud under load. But don't get me wrong, I've owned several gaming laptops and still very much enjoy them, but I'm not looking for this to be an everyday carry, just an occasional carry, with most of the upgradability and performance benefits of a desktop PC. So I began my research by looking at a few of the cases I've worked with in the past, just to try to figure out how I should build this thing. First, we need to figure out where to put the screen. You see, adding the monitor is going to block off the airflow from an entire side of the case, meaning we want all of the fans to face the same direction. Well, I could put the screen on the hinge at the top, and just like a laptop, but then we're going to block off all the airflow when it's closed, meaning it'll need to be open at all times, and I really don't like that idea. Well, if we flip the components over, ventilated from the bottom, that would allow the screen to be closed all the time, but we're gonna need legs to give it enough fresh air, and I don't really like that either because it's gonna snag when you try to put it in your bag and things like that. What if I designed it just like the Legion Go? I can vent all the components from the top and the sides, then I could build some rails to slide the monitor in. Now I need to figure out how I'm going to arrange the components in a way that they're all gonna face the top. You see, the Laser 3D HD5 does something very similar, only the GPU is on its side, and that's gonna make it really thick. The smallest case I've built in, the Yocto, that's a bit closer, but the GPU vents from the bottom, so that's obviously not gonna work either. What if the riser cable looped behind the motherboard and I put the GPU on the other side facing up? Well, that works, but there's a lot of wasted space between the board and the GPU because of the connector. I really wish that the standoffs weren't in the way so that I could hide most of that connector underneath the motherboard. But then I realized, if I used the 15mm standoffs for 3 of the motherboard mounting points, that 4th one could use 2 6mm standoffs stacked. That would allow me to use the same standoff for both the motherboard and the riser cable by sandwiching one of the riser cable ends between them. Now, we don't want anything metal touching the pinouts on the back of the board, so I also need to create a guard to make sure that that never happens. That will hide enough of the cable to give me enough space to mount an HDPlex 250 GaN power supply on the other side. But in order for this to work, I'll also need a lower profile GPU. So for this build, I'm gonna use a low profile 4060. And a good way to save some money when buying a new GPU is with this video sponsor, Jawa.gg. So I was scrolling through Jawa's listings when I found this exact model 4060 in like new condition. Buying used GPUs is a really good way to get the best value out of your builds. There's a few ways you can save even more here. First, you can get $10 off just by using my code DJ10 and follow the link in the description or pinned comment. But also, if you're upgrading from an existing gaming PC, you can sell your current GPU on Jawa's site. The fastest and simplest way is to get an instant offer to sell it directly to Jawa. Then you ship it to them, and most sellers will get paid within 1 business day. Or you can of course list it yourself if you want full control over the pricing. You can also buy complete systems if you don't want to build it yourself, or you can join their over 10,000 member Discord, where you can get help from others on your build and feedback on your part selection, along with other fun stuff like game nights, contests, giveaways, and things like that. So if you're wanting to save money on your next build, definitely go check out Jawa.gg. Now with these components and this layout, it's gonna be the perfect width for a 13-inch portable monitor. So after a few days of designing, measuring, and considering every detail, it was finally time to start building this thing. So I decided to use laser cut acrylic as the case materials for this first prototype. The cuts are precise, the material is quite durable, and it can withstand temperatures up to 320 degrees Fahrenheit before melting. So unless this case catches on fire, we should be good to go. I modeled and 3D printed the side rails, gathered the necessary assembly hardware, and this is what I came up with. I don't have a name for it yet, but this is my all-in-one mini PC. I designed the side panels in the front with this angle that sits flat on the table when it's in this upright position, and it kind of reminds me of a PS4 when it's sitting flat. I continued that angle design with the ventilation and the other end of the side panel. I think it looks pretty cool, but also the idea was to create a cover to slide through that back cutout and cover any cable mess coming from the back of the motherboard. Although that one I'll have to go back to the drawing board on, as it still sits a little bit too low to clear all the cables when they're plugged in. I took the shield off the back of the GPU and cut out mounting holes directly into the backplate so that the extra metal piece wouldn't be sticking out as well. Cables can be routed through this cutout and down to the monitor, which also has the appropriate cutouts for the inputs and the volume buttons. The power button is also on the same side and easily accessible. The top panel has ventilation that perfectly matches my Noctua low profile cooler and also features my SFF logo with the ventilation continuing that angled theme. The torque hinges I'm using are mostly hidden away inside of the case, and they're quite strong. They can also be easily tightened when needed. All we have to do is lift up the hinge and use a Phillips screwdriver. And in the orientation that I put them in, they will only bend a max of 90 degrees. So even if they do loosen over time, the PC is not gonna fall over. At the front here, we have the screen. I can slide this in or out as needed or replace it if it breaks. And this particular one is a 1080p OLED screen, but it's also a touchscreen. I don't even need to bring a keyboard or a mouse to navigate Windows, update drivers, or launch my games, and one day activate Windows. Even without the screen and the hinge, I just really love how this design turned out. Using and gaming on this thing way surpassed my expectations. It's at a comfortable angle for me and the stand is rock solid. I think the angled bottom is giving it a good amount of surface area to sit and it feels like it adds a lot of stability when it's propped up like this. Performance is exactly what you would expect from a desktop 4060. Thermals are looking good as well, but the best part is how quiet it is under load. So I have a few updates that I want to do. First, I want to find some higher quality 5mm thick acrylic to use on the base and the sides. The 3mm that I'm using now is fine, but 5 would just be much more rigid. I also think that with a few tweaks, I can fit the 500 watt HDPlex power supply in here. There really aren't any small cases that use it, and I think that it'll give the system a lot of headroom for any future component upgrades. And last, I want to make a slightly smaller one. I realized in the current setup, turning the power supply on its side wouldn't really utilize the space well for a 13-inch monitor, but would be perfect for a 12-inch iPad. Using that with a Genki Shadowcast could be a really cool option as well. So anyway, I truly want to know what you guys think about this project in the comments below. I will be making some updates on it and I'll definitely post them here, so if you want to follow along. And I also have a couple of other unique case ideas that I'll be sharing soon as well. So thanks for watching.